Yeah, so it's a quick origin story kind of thing. So it was back in 2013. We had this little company, Run Sign Up, and basically Run Sign Up's purpose was to let races like 5Ks and half marathons have a website and have people sign up. And 2012 was an interesting year because Chicago Marathon site bombed, the Broad Street 10 miler bombed, like the sites blew up and stuff. And so at that point in time, Run Sign Up was really, really small. And Steven Sigworth, CTO, and I hatched this plan that even though we only had 80,000 people sign up for races on our site that entire year, that we should solve the problem of how 50,000 people sign up for a race within 10 minutes. And we recruited a friend of ours, Rich Friedman, to help us figure out how to do that. And actually in 2012 was the year that we kind of moved from like, GoDaddy hosting to AWS and built a scalable type of an architecture. But we didn't really know how scalable it was. And we didn't really know, what sizes we needed for different layers of the architecture and so forth. So we thought, geez, we ought to load test it. But how the heck do we load test it? And so, the problem was that we're a small little company and it was kind of like a passion project. So we didn't want to spend a ton of money. And, kind of everything that was available commercially that scaled was way too expensive for us. And JMeter was out there. But the problem with JMeter at the time was that, you couldn't really, there was no good way to scale it. You could try to kind of kludge it together and try to run your own JMeter instances in Amazon and things like that. And then there was this little project called Bees with Machine Guns, which is still like my favorite company name of all time. But that one didn't really scale and didn't allow us to script well enough and things like that. And so we decided to build our own because we're a bunch of nerds and that's how we roll. So we built this load testing service, and basically we put up a server that allowed us to distribute agents, load test agents, and each agent would emulate X number of people signing up for a race. And we built little PHP Perl scripts to run these things and to emulate the users stepping through the process of signing up for a race and donating and picking out a shirt and things like that, entering a credit card. And we wound up having to run the test 300 times. So we'd run it once and we'd say, oh, geez, that kind of sucked. And where was the bottleneck? And let's go fix some code. And, let's go, rearrange how we're positioning the servers and things like that. And we kept doing that over and over again. And what was great about what we had built is that it was really easy to test again. So you could make one little quick change to, some database function that allowed you to run faster, and you could run the test again. And it was really super quick. And it cost us a total of $600 for all those instances we were running. And because we were cheap, we would run spot instances. So they were like super, super cheap. And we'd run literally the server that we had would spin up literally 100 different EC2 instances, distribute all these scripts, basically. The scripts would go out and ping and then would report all the summary data back. And then this is a screenshot from one of the early tests back in November of 2012. And at that point in time, we were trying 4,000. And we released, we kind of finished the end of the year, and we did a press release about scalability and how we could handle 50,000 people. And I think we actually did it in 7 minutes. And it was kind of a watershed moment for us in a couple different ways. One, it was, kind of the foundation architecture that we could utilize moving forward. And we felt, secure and sleeping at night that we wouldn't, have some race come along and crash our system because of load. And it also kind of proved out our technical prowess and, ability to write good code and so forth. So so that's what we did. We continued to scale the company, and by 2019 we had over 20,000 races across the U.S. use us. In 2020 was a weird year, obviously, but in 2020 we had over 6 million people sign up for those races. And it's a self-serve platform. It scales. We never know like what's going to be happening in any one day. There could be a sellout race that opens and you get 1,000 registrations in a minute, but like we've never really tested it, like tested our limits. No user has gone above what we've been able to test with Redline, which is great. And it's allowed us to scale the company. More recently, we've kind of reached about 40% market share in the endurance race, 5K, half marathon, triathlon market. And so we're expanding into the giving market, into nonprofits, helping nonprofits. And our observation there is again, like a lot of vendors just don't pay attention to performance and speed and scalability and having a secure site and so forth. The other thing it helped us with is because we're getting to be a fairly popular site, we occasionally get hackers that are coming at us with DDoS attacks. And we've recorded about 3,000 hits a second on our servers. And we've been able to survive, knock on wood, those so far, mostly because we had this iterative process we were able to use this technology for. So we build this and we use it ourselves, and we're kind of all kind of open source-ish types of people. And we thought, geez, this is really cool. We should share this in some sort of way. But the thing is, like, it was more of a service than it was open source software that you'd put out there that people would have to download and run and figure out how to put it together and everything. So we decided to come up with kind of this open source-ish business model, if you will, kind of for the new SaaS era. And what we wanted to do, we all had day jobs and things that we were doing, but we wanted to kind of start up this little company and provide this little service as kind of like a little side project that, we could do on weekends, and a little side project that people could make use of, much like open source software is, right? But because we had to run the service, we had some costs that we had to incur. And because people would come and ask us questions, we'd have some costs. So what we wanted to do is to try to make a free version and also make it really low cost for kind of unlimited types of capabilities. So the type of use case that we had, we wanted other people to benefit from it. And so we paid $300 and we created a little LLC with the three of us as partners, and that's how we're structured today. The term Redline13 came kind of from that little graphic that Stephen actually found to put a little tachometer on the graphs originally. And it's like, in a car, when you hit red line, that's when the engine's going to blow. So you don't want to hit the red line. And so we thought Redline was kind of a cool name for that. And of course, redline.com was taken. So we were like, 13 is kind of an unlucky number that kind of goes along with what you want to do with load testing. And so we called it Redline13, bought the domain for $13 from GoDaddy, and put up a little website and put up the service on Amazon and just offered it. So, we really didn't do any work on it. Chris was not a part of us at that point in time. And so we did zero like promotion, sales, marketing, or something like that. It was just kind of word of mouth. And a couple of years later, Chris kind of joined us on a part-time basis to help out with customers and so forth. One of the most amusing stories was IBM was using BlazeMeter, I think, and they really liked us, but they're like, you guys are too inexpensive, so we couldn't possibly use you, which I find tremendously amusing. And we were like, yeah, that's right. And they were like, but if you charge us more, you could hire support people and you could, build an organization and stuff. And we're like, no, we're good. It's okay. You don't have to use us. So today, we've kind of gotten to this point where there's been a fair amount of word of mouth, and we actually have a decent amount of revenue coming in, so we can, pay people like Chris and Dave to help, kind of advance the product and make sure that we're taking care of customers. And it's kind of this balance that we want to keep between staying true to the original vision and trying to make this really inexpensive and very accessible and all that. And I think we're doing a halfway decent job of keeping that balance. So, people can pay like $75 and get, pretty large amount of capability for $2,500 a year. Like they can kind of have really unlimited, very productive type of use. And we've got some, great customers that pay us $2,500 or $5,000 a year, and we really appreciate it because it just kind of helps support, kind of the community, if you will. So not unlike what Dries did with Drupal in the very early days, but we have less ambition than Acquia had. So for us today, we kind of think about how we help customers, but not kind of overdo it. And so we try to bias everything towards self-serve. So when people like Nick come to us and say, hey, we need a better API to, go do stuff, we're like interested in that. And we're like, okay, that's a good weekend project that we can take on. And we, put an API and Nick uses it, and it's very self-serve. So, we don't have to spend a lot of time with folks like Nick to help them. They're very capable people, and that's kind of our type of customer. Originally, we built this, and we just had, PHP and curl were what people used. And then what we found is that there was this big community around Apache JMeter, and that there was a lot of people that kind of had our initial problem with JMeter, is that it was hard to scale. It's hard to figure out how to scale it. And so today, I don't even know, probably like 80+% of the test scripts that are run on our site are from Apache JMeter. We remain really flexible on AWS. We really, people have asked us occasionally to go on Google and Azure. And it's kind of one of those things where there's just not that much value in it for us. And, it's not that interesting to do. And to kind of keep our costs low, we'll just stay on AWS, and hopefully it meets most people's needs there. But we have made it really flexible. So people use this thing worldwide. It's really cool to see, all these different countries making use of it. And it's really interesting to see some of these really large scale tests that are run on our system. Like I said, we've got just kind of a simple business model, and we kind of make small incremental improvements. Don't expect the world from us at this point in time. It's a nice project. It's solid software. We're here, we're behind it. We're not going to let it fail. So we have interest in it, and it's a cool little project that keeps kind of growing, about 50% a year or something. So it makes us feel good, and that we created something that people can use. So we do occasional kind of new releases of software, and several customers had been asking us for SSO for a while. And so we finally buckled down and got some hours on it and completed it. We are charging extra for it. Actually, I'm not even sure how much extra we're charging for it, so you have to ask Chris. I actually asked him that in one of the chats earlier here, but maybe he'll tell us afterwards. But it's just to offset our costs to, service the software and maintain it and things like that. And it's a pretty narrow set of customers that want it. So anyway, that is now out. And from what I hear, the beta went really smoothly, which is always good. History of LoadTestWorld. Chris and I were getting together for lunch, and I'm on the board and was around at the start of CloudBees, which is the Jenkins DevOps company, and CloudBees actually puts on DevOps World every year. That just finished, and I'm like, we should do LoadTestWorld, and Chris is like, okay, yeah, that'd be good, and so Chris, pinged a few of our customers and partners, and everybody was like, yeah, sounds good. So let's do it. And so kind of like RedLine13, it was kind of like a low overhead situation that worked out pretty well. And some of these sessions have been fantastic. And I think, by putting the content up will be useful for other people too. So, thank you, to the Redline sponsors, especially SQA Logic and QA Insights. We appreciate you guys coming and talking and sharing your expertise and helping customers with load testing. And geez, thanks to the speakers, some really good speakers. Naveen's video was good, even though he wasn't here. He did a good job with the video. So thank you to everybody for doing things. Like Bees with Machine Guns is my favorite company name, but Senio Profumo is my favorite name of an individual. And thanks for people hanging around and watching and asking questions and so forth. And we'll probably do this again. It was pretty successful. I think there was good stuff. We'll probably do it for different time zones. So this was kind of East Coast afternoon. Maybe we'll do this so that it's more convenient for Europe and maybe one for Asia or something, because we've got customers all over the place. Any questions? I doubt anybody has questions. I doubt anybody's left, but if you're left, send an email with your address to bob.bickel@runsignup.com and I'll send you $1.
Bob and I had a wager on how many people would be on here. So actually, you mentioned Nick. And I thought he left, but he's still backstage. And
he's still backstage? You didn't let him out? You didn't give him a key to the door?
No, I left. I did leave, actually. I came back in because I had a question. Because you see, my shirt's different because I'm actually going to go out but I don't run, but I do walk very fast, and I don't want to get run over by a car.
Yeah.
So your blaze meter reminded me of something that Chris and I had talked about. So Acquia Professional Services uses blaze meter. They're kind of familiar with it and whatever. And when I started this performance testing stuff and the amount of testing that we had to do, I literally burned through our entire month of blaze meter views in 2 days. All gone.
Yeah.
And like we couldn't even write a check big enough for blaze meter to say, yeah, we'll do more. It's like, well, so we started looking fairly quick. It's like it's really not a question, it's a comment. It's the amount of traffic that I can generate and put on a system. And with the idea, sort of like you would run signups, like I want to make sure we can do 50,000 immediate signups or whatever. It's like I want to make sure the platform we're developing can actually support the amount of web traffic on everybody's website that we might be hosting at once. So that's really all I wanted to say, and I had forgotten about that little tidbit of how easy it is to burn through VUs on the metered plan.
It's true, and the way we set our architecture up is I'll pat ourselves on the back. It's kind of clever because our server is not that big. And all the load agents are running on your servers, so it winds up being, and AWS servers are so darn cheap. you know, like it's just, and that doesn't really create any extra load on us. So why should we charge you more for, you know, the fact that you're emulating, you know, 1 million users or something?
Yeah, and I've noticed, which one talked about, which is probably it's really easy with your system to right size your load test and agents, because it costs you like a dime to run a test if you're just trying to right size it, right? And you're like, okay, I'm going to run, I don't know, 50,000 views on one JMeter test and see what happens. And if your load meter's pegged at 100%, like, maybe not. But if you can, you can keep a low load, and with something like BlazeMeter, you sort of hope it's like, I want this, and they give it to you, and they're like, wow, the load agent itself is falling over instead of the application you're trying to stress. So yeah, I have to say, for having used it for 6 months, I'm thrilled. It's, in a lot of ways, as a lot of people say, it's basic. It gets the job done, and it gets out of the way. So
yeah, that's kind of what we wanted to do, you know. So nothing fancy.
All right,
I will leave backstage now because I can look at myself.
Thanks.
In orange. Bye.
Thanks, Nick. All right.
I will make one more comment here, Chris.
Sure.
I'm using this spare monitor in our conference room. I'm really not this orange.
I wasn't going to say anything. So,
okay.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for your presentation here. So with that, all right, Bob,
send me your address, Nick. bob.bickel@runsignup.com. You will definitely get $1.
We'll see who else.
Oh, Heath might be in for $1 too. All right. All right.
All right. Thanks, Bob.